G'day YouTube. I was asked by a viewer to do a follow-up video to one that I did a while back aimed at beginner riders, and that was all about how to actually start a motorcycle using the FIND C acronym, how to put it into gear and how to get underway. So the follow-up video I was asked to do was and is how to ride smoothly at low speeds, in traffic and things, how to get that smoothness. So I'm going to talk to you today about just two things: clutch and throttle. And I can guarantee you, if you have smooth clutch and throttle control, you will immediately become a smoother rider. And having smooth throttle control is absolutely critical when we're talking about higher speed and cornering. That will keep your stability and your traction in the corners. So that's for some other time. So this is again a beginner's video, somebody who is new to riding or thinking about riding. If you are new to motorcycling, I completely, highly recommend that you go do a class from somebody like the Motorcycle Safety Foundation, because they will be able to give you the skills and the confidence that you really need immediately, so that you can get out on the road and do it safely and confidently. So highly recommend go do a class. They'll take you from not even having sat on a motorcycle before, all the way through to even getting your endorsement. And the good thing about this, for not a lot of money, frequently you're on the range bike, so you don't even need a motorcycle to do the class. And for not a lot of money, you can work out if motorcycling, if you're really bitten by the bug, you'll know by the end of that weekend. It's usually only a 3-day thing. You'll know by the end of that whether motorcycling is for you or not. So go do a class. So this is just a little refresher. I'm going to talk about, of course, your clutch and your throttle. And I'm going to talk about a few different techniques. I'm going to talk about the friction zone, what it is, how to find it, and what do you do with it once you've found it. And I'm going to talk about some slow speed maneuvers and some slow speed work, and a little technique that we call feathering the clutch. So and how that is useful in slow speed, and how you can use that as well as your brake to give you some stability for low speed stuff. As you can tell, if you are a new rider, and I'm sorry about that truck, but I am at the back of a supermarket. If you are a new rider, and you can, it's not always possible because you might live in a city and it's hard to get away from traffic, but I highly recommend that you get away someplace where there's no traffic to practice these sorts of things. So parking lots, industrial or business estates are really, really good, because after hours there's usually no traffic, but there are street signs, there are intersections and everything that you can practice those skills on, but without adding into the mix these homicidal cages who are munching a hamburger and texting their mommy. So so get away, get into something where you can safely practice these skills, and not get tangled up with homicidal people. So let's just kind of reiterate that, okay, the left-hand side of the bike, we're talking about all of your gearing on the left-hand side of the bike. You've got your clutch, and of course you've got down there is your gear lever. The right-hand side of your bike is all about your go and your whoa. Okay, so we've got your throttle here. The front is your front brake, and down the bottom there is my back brake. So let's turn the bike on. And when you turn your bike on, just get into the practice of making sure that you are in neutral and start it with your clutch in, because I can guarantee you that if you're not careful, sooner or later you'll start your bike in gear and it will surge forward. And if you're sitting on it, that's not not a terrible thing. It's a bit surprising, but I've heard of them where people have started them not sitting on the bike, and the bike leaps forward, falls off the kickstand, and then you've got a downed bike and a bruised ego. So don't do that. Okay, so friction zone, where is it and how do you find it? Okay, so remembering that with our gear patterns, and most bikes are the same, If you tap on the shifter down as far as it'll go, you're going to be in first. If you put your toe underneath the lever and tap it up just a half a click, so you're not quite going into second, just a half a click, that's going to be neutral. Okay, if you were to put your toe under it and keep tapping, okay, you would end up in second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth if you have it. Okay, so you tap up to go up through the gears, and you tap down to go back down through the gears to a lower gear. Okay, pretty simple. So first thing you want to do is you want to find first. So pull your clutch in and tap down. I'm down as far as it'll go, won't go any further, she's in first. So in first gear, all of this is going to be in first gear. I'm not even going to get into second gear at this point. So at first gear, and this is an exercise that you can practice at home in your driveway without even leaving the driveway, okay? So you're going to find your friction zone. The friction zone is an area on your clutch lever where the transmission starts to engage. So you need to find where that is on your bike, and each bike will be a little bit different. My bike, it's not quite halfway out. My other bike, it's almost out to the extent of my fingers. So what you want to do with the engine idling in first gear with the clutch in is gently, slowly start to let the clutch out and feel for when it starts to grab. You see that? Okay, try that again. Okay, so what you're doing is just practicing. Just start to let it out and roll forward, pull your clutch in, brake and roll back. And just practice that a few times. And practice being smooth. So you want to find out, where does it start, where does your friction zone start, and practice being smooth, letting that out fluidly throughout the range of the friction zone. So that's one thing that you can try. The friction zone is important for slow speed maneuvers, things like parking lots, doing U-turns, or if you're unfortunate enough to be stuck on the freeway coming home from work and the place is like a parking lot and everybody is traveling at a speed that's too slow for you to be completely engaged in first gear. We're talking slow speeds. But because the bike, you'll notice the bike is going to start surging. And you just, so you're just traveling at such a slow speed, you can't quite get into first, but you've got to keep moving. So you then do a process which is called, you use your friction zone and your knowledge of where that is to feather the clutch. And that's where you are engaging and disengaging the clutch, not completely. It's not completely disengaged and it's not completely engaged. You're feathering in between the two of them, working up and down through that friction zone. See how I'm doing that a little bit? I'm just kind of just engaging the friction zone there in the clutch. That's called feathering the clutch. And that will give you just enough momentum without A, killing your engine, and B, being all jerky all over the place, and just kind of keep you rolling. So you can feather your clutch, which is really helpful. When you have good clutch control, this is something you might be able to try. I can get away with it because I've got a really big engine, but when you've got good clutch control, and I should probably straighten up a little bit here, you can actually get underway without touching your throttle at all. So I'm just going to rest my hand here on my reservoir, and I'm just going to smoothly start to let out my clutch, and I am completely engaged. Okay, I'm completely engaged. So practice being smooth, okay? I didn't stall my engine, okay? I didn't surge forward. Of course, that would be impossible with the amount of idle RPMs I've got going on. You can certainly practice that. So I'm going to stop here, and in part 2 I'll come back and I'll show you how to feather your clutch through the friction zone and use your back brake to give you stability at lower speeds. So cheers, don't forget to watch part 2.